Yeah, one day I was just on an iPlayer and I saw it come up and I was like, I'll give it a go, and was instantly hooked.
I found the show on the recommendation of a television critic for the Washington Post.
I tend to love anything that Sally Wainwright does.
And I was like, yeah, okay, sure, I'm sure it's good. First episode, I was in love. So I popped in to see what it was about, and I never left.
Before Gentleman Jack aired in 2019, Anne Lister, English landowner, diarist, and unapologetic lesbian, was a well-kept secret, as was Anne Walker, the woman who loved and married her in 1834. Almost 200 years later, their story of love and courage electrified and inspired people around the world to be their most authentic selves. It's also ignited the creation of an international community.
There's a difference in the way this fandom operates. Gentleman Jack fans there's a passion. All fandoms are passionate because they love this piece of television or whatever it is that they are fans of. But Gentleman Jack is really passionate because beyond having cool characters and awesome clothes and funny dialogue and awesome scenery and all of these things that make good television, it's a story, it's a real story, and it's a story that's so relatable to people. When you come into the fandom and you say, hey, I just watched Gentleman Jack, who out there is watching it? And you tweet, post on Twitter, then people are so welcoming because they want to talk to you about it. They're still excited about it, They want to hear how your life has been changed. They want to tell you how their life has been changed. There's this sharing of ideas and stories.
So that tweet that I first wrote, people who responded were from the UK and America and Spain and so many different places. And to me, Gentleman Jack, when I watched it on the iPlayer, it seemed like a very, British TV show that wouldn't really go global, but actually when I spoke to more people, I was like, wow, okay, there's so many people all around the world who watch the show, who've read her diaries, who are invested in it.
From the moment I watched the show, or we watched the show at home, I felt the need to find other people to talk about the show. Even just it was somehow it made a huge impact.
I found the community when I came to visit Halifax for the first time. It coincided with Pride in Calderdale. So I went to the Peace Hall completely on my own, just wanting to kind of take in the atmosphere after being at Shibden. When I first met, a lot of people at Pride, I thought, well, everyone's a bit older than me. I don't know if they're really going to want to hang out with someone my age that, doesn't have a lot of life experience and is quite new to even being open about her sexuality. But I couldn't have been more wrong.
That welcoming nature of it actually started very early on. It started within the Facebook pages itself. It was really interesting to see people start to pop in from all over the place. And there was always this sense of, isn't this exciting? Isn't it grand that we've all found this person? Isn't it wonderful that we can all get together and talk to her about it?
The small town or the tribe or whatever it was, a viewer, doesn't exist for most people anymore. Many people. And I think for minorities, of which we are one, or we're several that are kind of affiliated, it's even more important to have a feeling that, hey, we're in this together,
When I tell my friends here in the States, part of this worldwide group of people, they're like, they just don't get it. They're like, why would you be friends with people you never even met them? I'm like, no, I have on Facebook, but they're like, but you haven't met them in person. I'm like, it doesn't matter, we're friends.
I knew I had to find someone to be able to talk to, and I knew there couldn't be just me or two other people out there. And when I found my community, it was like finding somebody you didn't know you lost.
Having this community is, it fills that void. Even though it's not in person, it fills a huge void for me and probably many others.
What surprised me about the community is how welcoming it is and how much I really have fallen in love with it.
I mean, a lot of people say, oh, it's a fandom. It's like, yeah, it's a lot more than that. It's a way of sort of reassessing our place in history, our place in the world.
And when you're an introvert like me, I'm really shy, and you just find this show that is about a lesbian, which is a protagonist of her own story. And she brings this power to you to be anything that you want to be. I started to make my art, and I saw my art transform myself, and the story of the show transform myself. The community is important to me because it makes me feel more whole. It makes me feel as though I legitimately belong to a group, and that I care about people and they care about me. And this is something that really I didn't realize this until I started to feel comfortable in belonging to this group, that was a void in my life. Until I got connected, I didn't realize how much I needed it and how much it was missing from my life. And this series has really, I think, done that for a lot of people. It has sort of awakened us to ourselves.
Within this bubble of people who are all the same, you can be who you are without having to explain anything. You all know what it's about, and it doesn't need explanation.
I think it's really obvious that we all just want to be seen and validated. In this community, we get to have conversations about these stories that, arising throughout, Gentleman Jack season 1 and 2. And it's just a really important thing to realize that you're not alone. These things aren't just you. And the things that make Ann Lister an oddity also make her an icon. So embrace that.
I wish that she'd been around and we'd known more about her, and the community had been around when certainly I was younger. My life would have been a whole lot easier, I think. I'm quite envious of younger people who get to meet and know Ann Lister early on in their years.
I think if I had this kind of community when I was younger, I would have embraced my adventuresome self a whole lot earlier, been less trying to fit in to a mold that I didn't belong into. Get out of that closet. I was out, but I was in.
I had retired 2 years early, unexpectedly, 6 months prior to starting the show and joining the groups. And, I was spending most of my time alone, walking every day, visiting my sister, but I didn't really have a purpose in my life after retiring. So it really brought a community to me.
It's not very common for people over 50 to get so many new friends. And that's just overwhelming.
I've gone from being a 50-plus housewife with a small family, a small circle of friends and colleagues, to having this global friendship group.
I've met people that I would never, ever have crossed paths with in life otherwise. And I find that I've got so much in common with them, not just because of Ann Lister, but sort of shared experiences of, being a queer woman. And I've just made some really great friends that I never expected I would ever have.
I have so many good friends now around the world, not only Sam, but many others, that I just feel, it's hard to explain how you just feel surrounded by warmth all the time being part of this community. And it's just, I feel like they're with me all day, every day, in a way that I never would have expected. It's hard to explain, but just having this amazing thing in common with so many people I never would have met otherwise has absolutely changed my life.
In the beginning, it was social media that connected the international Gentleman Jack community, but Pat Esgate had the vision of bringing us all together face to face. In April 2022, hundreds of people from around the world gathered in Halifax for the first Anne Lister birthday week.
I was filled with this sense of purpose. And that sense of purpose was, I knew that I wanted to get as many women as I could back in Halifax, back in this place where Anne Lister had been baptized and buried, and let them feel the energy and the power of being surrounded with others like themselves. Now, I can't tell you that I was thinking, oh, I'm going to put on an event. But that's what it turned into in about a week.
Community does not even begin to describe what that was like. That was magical. All these people who were really into it, really into not just the show. I almost didn't go because I thought it was going to be like Gentleman Jack Con or something, and I was like, oh, I'm not sure I'm into that. But it wasn't. It was people who were seriously, deeply in love with Anne Lister, the human being, not just Anne Lister, the character in the TV show. And so that was really rewarding to find people who had every level of enthusiasm, every type of interest, and who all had this one thing in common, but we were all experiencing it in our own ways.
I think just by virtue of being at ALBW and being part of the community, people already felt connected. And so no one really felt like a stranger. I've never had such an easy time chatting with people I hadn't met before, because we have such a powerful common interest.
But there's a lot of us that came from across the world, and we put a lot of our own finances to be there, but we knew the value and we knew what Pat put together, and we knew that the community she created was going to be everything. And it was everything. I think everyone's expectations were exceeded, and I will be always grateful for that.
What struck me, what really, really struck me was how lovely it must be. I'd always taken for granted, as I said, being married to a fella, that we can dance together, we can walk down the street holding hands together, we can, So it struck me that wasn't always the case for people. And one of the dances, when some of them were dancing together, and how relaxed and lovely it was. So the whole community, and it was just lovely.
One of the things that I heard the most from people when they wrote their notes back to me was how they had come to Halifax for ALBW, not knowing anyone, or maybe just coming with their partner, a little shy, a little nervous, not certain how they would fit in. And yet, to a person, they all talk about how incredibly welcoming people were, and how it was amazing to be able to walk across the Peace Hall and see a group of people, kind of hanging around with one another, who would look across and see them and motion them over. Never met them before, but they saw that they had their lanyards on, right? And I found that really quite wonderful. It's and it's exactly what I would hope. If we're founding a community, then let's make it one that really does welcome everyone.
When I got to ALBW, you could feel it in the air. You literally could feel it in the air. That, and so many people have said this too, that it was just complete openness and welcoming and love. And it was, it actually affected me very profoundly to be in a community that was so accepting and so welcoming, not just on a sort of a statistical level, like, you're a middle-aged lesbian history nerd? Hey, so are we. Come on in. It was it was very individual. Each person there was not just accepted, but treasured, you know, and the feeling of being around that much acceptance, this is going to sound crazy, but it kind of wiped away like 40 years of social anxiety for me. And it really did change the way that I interact with the world, to be around these people who were so welcoming and accepting and kind. And I literally became a different person while I was there. Somebody wrote, "We had our community and we had no fear and love was in the air." And I'm like, yes, that's exactly right. To have your community, to have no fear at all. Everything was going to be perfectly fine. That was the feeling throughout the whole thing.
The letters that I got from people, the emails that I got from people talking about ALBW and what it meant to them to be here at that time. And it completely blew me out of the water. And of course, the bigger part of that was I was diagnosed with breast cancer in February of 2022. So that kept me from being here. The outpouring of affection, of letters and cards and gifts that arrived at my house was phenomenal. And I kept every single one of those cards on top of a bookcase that separates our kitchen from our family room until the day that I was entirely done with my treatment 7 months later. This community carried me through that. And I will be forever grateful for them.
This has been more, it's not just the show anymore. It's more than just the show. The show has been sort of the focal point of bringing people together who I feel have been really missing a piece of their soul, so to speak. And it's like we've known each other, but we haven't been able to find each other until now.
But it's the process of community making that strengthens people as individuals and opens new doors for them, new worlds. And I think it's critically important and just so excellent in every way.
How many things can you say have genuinely changed your life, let alone a TV show? But that's exactly what's happened. Because of Anne Lister, because of Gentleman Jack, things have changed. And we have this beautiful community, which, when everything's said and done, is going to be, I think, one of the show's most enduring and lasting legacies.
The community has changed people's lives, whether subtly or big, you know, and for some people it's big. Some people have moved, some people have changed jobs, some people got married. And it's like, met people, you know, the Gentleman Jack got married. Like, wow. You know, I mean, that's a lot of power that one show has.
We feel like in a safe place all the time when we are in that community. Like, I just saw people coming out, people talking about how hard it is to be with parents that don't accept but they feel embraced by the community. So the most important thing about being in a community is that sense of, wow, I'm accepted, I'm loved here. I can talk about everything that I'm feeling here, that I won't be judged. So I think this is amazing. And I think that was Anne Walker would like to have that time. She just wanted to have friends to talk about it and to talk about her anxiety, to talk about her sexuality and the doubts and the fears. And now we have this.
For the people that are able to actually come to the community and say, I'm struggling with something, and not be ashamed to say it, and hope that they get some kind of response that's going to be nurturing, that's going to be caring, and could potentially stop someone from doing harm to themselves. And I think it's really important that this community exists, because I've never seen anything like it. I spent, oh God, I don't know how many decades hidden. Had I had that kind of contact with a support group like that, I think I would have had so much more courage to be able to face it, to deal with it, to shut it down, to educate some people. I think it would have been so much more different.
I really look forward to talking to people in this community. Yeah, I feel like I have a big, wide group of friends now that I didn't feel like I had before. A bit of a social loner, worked more than anything. And that would probably be the biggest thing. And the support this community has given me, especially lately with going through some trying times with my dad passing and my mom getting dementia. This community has been a great source of support that I couldn't do without.
It is the family base, if you will, friendship that I have longed for a long time. You know, it's more than just fandom. It is actually a sense of belonging, a place to belong.
To be amongst people where you feel safe and you feel welcome, and you feel that they're gonna not attack you for your naivety sometimes, that you're coming to it new. Before I was afraid, because like for instance, I joined a walking group beforehand and I felt out of place because I didn't have a community. I felt like a fish out of water. Whereas the community and having that thing together of, okay, we all love this show, and you feel safe within that show and amongst these people, it gave me the courage to come out to my family, to my friends, to fall in love, to everything has changed since that time. So it's it did give me some courage. So that's what I got from it.
It's made me so much more comfortable with who I am. Before I met, my Lister sister friends, I was very closed off about my sexuality. I wasn't open about it at all. I would never call myself a lesbian. I would certainly not have been particularly proud of that. I would always shy away from it. And a lot of the friends that I've made have spent a long time feeling like that. And I feel like, I'm almost 30. Being at the age that I'm at now and being able to be open and proud, call myself a lesbian, all of that, I feel like I owe it to them. I feel like I owe it to Anne Lister, to Anne Walker, for all the women that, came before us that weren't able to be like that. I don't think I would ever in a million years have reached that point if it wasn't for this fandom and making friends and watching the show and reading the diaries. So I really don't think I would be who I am now. I was certainly not like that 6 months ago.
These are people I'm going to talk to and be friends with for the rest of my life, because how do you go back from having such a life-changing experience and then not talk again? So there's a uniting factor that I think will always be there, and it's been something pretty amazing.
I didn't expect in my time of life to have a new bunch of friends. Just need them, but seems I did.
I have a very full life, but being part of the Gentleman Jack community has just blown it wide open. It's like it's even bigger than I thought my life could be. That it opened to the possibilities of knowing people, knowing places, knowing history, knowing that there were people 200 years ago that led this life that was ultimately amazing and fascinating and did it with gusto and did it with, you know, without really much care in the world. So like you said, and other people said, it's like, you know, you're just going through your life and everything's great. And then this show comes along, and you're like, what is this? What is this world? What is this community? And it's just been really, I'm just really grateful for finding the community and meeting the people involved with it and being part of the Gentleman Jack, you know, online world. It's been, it's given me a whole new purpose.
This community gives me strength, gives me an outlet to cope with things. And this community lets me express myself. And that I love the most.
If you're having trouble with, you know, your own self and your own community, that there is a community that will support you and will, you know, hold your hand and give you support. That, you know, is most amazing thing that, you know, you'll find in your life.
This is my tribe. It's a sense of belonging that it's almost immediate. And that has really surprised me. That connection it's just so real and so deep, and among hundreds of people who have never met each other, and that's pretty amazing.
This was some health article. We're humans who need contact with each other. If that can't be done face to face, studies have shown that it's connecting with others that is just as valid, whether that's now done by Zoom, WhatsApp, Facebook. Just try and find your family. I thought I'd had mine, but this new one landed out of the sky when I least expected it and didn't know I needed it. There you go. Yeah. So just no, I'm all right now. I'm not going to cry. So just find your family.
On your marks, on your marks. Come on. You got to get ready. 1, 2, 3.
The reason I wanted to make this film is because I believe this story needed to be told. This show gave people the courage to be their authentic selves and to live unapologetically. It also gave us a community that many of us didn't know we needed. The faces on the screen may not be yours, but the stories are. They're my story, they're your story, and collectively, they're our story. I had this idea for how I wanted the show to end after the ant have ridden off into the sunset, very much happy and alive. There would be this montage of everything that's resulted because Gentleman Jack brought Anne Lister back into our world where she belongs. The diaries being recognised by UNESCO, the Anne Lister College at York University, the Anne Lister Society, all of the stuff with the In Search of Anne Walker group, the plaque at Goodram Gate, all of the changes in Halifax, Anne's statue at the Peace Hall, the mural, the monument at Shibden. They would show all of that. And then you would have Sally and Saran placing flowers at Anne's statue, or hopefully at her final resting place. And then Sophie would do the same for Anne Walker. And then you would have Saran sitting on the bench at Shibden underneath Anne's plaque, waiting for her wife to join her. And then they would come, sit down, have a moment, and then they would have one final fourth wall break, a nod to this community that's been created because of the show. And then the music would start.
Gentleman Jack, a Yorkshire lady of renown, never so fine, won't toe the line, speak her name, gentleman frown. With Shibden all, she had them all, the fairest sex fell under a spell, dapper and bright, she held them tight. Handsome man seduced them well. Gentleman Jack, oh gentleman Jack, watch your back, you're under attack. The husbands are coming, you better start running, for nobody likes a Jack the Last. Jack the Last, Jack